How are we doing today, folks? And by folks, I mean Liz. And all you fine people listening, I guess. How is everybody doing?
Hey.
Are you doing like a Fonzie? An Arthur
I'm not doing a
Fonzarelli?
Fonzie, but I do find myself going, hey, all the time, like at work.
Well,
and then I'm just like, kind of awkward because, like, why am I channeling the Fonz for no reason?
I don't know. We watched Holes with Henry Winkler in it today.
Did. It was amazing. I forgot how much I flippin' loved that movie.
Flippin'. What the flip, Liz?
What the flippity flap?
Anyways, folks, welcome to episode number 65 of the Sounds Like Liberty podcast here on the Launchpad Media.
Yeah.
We got a fun one for you today, don't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
How much fun is it, Liz? Is it more fun than fairies in Iceland?
I don't know. That is a really interesting. I didn't realize there was an actual place on the planet where they like legit believe in fairies. That's kind of awesome.
Which type of fairies do they believe in, though?
Oh, that I don't know. I have to continue my research, which is not at all a hardship because it's ridiculously interesting.
Speaking of fairies,
yeah,
how terrible is that new Amazon series?
Oh God, I had such high hopes for that one. I'm like, Orlando Bloom's in it, and it's gonna be all fantastical, and I can kind of see what kind of stuff comes up when Amazon just throws a ton of money at something, and yeah, it did not give me all the hopes for the new Lord of the Rings thingy. What it did give me
was, I don't blame that on Amazon.
No,
they work independent. They don't tell people how to make their shit.
Oh, okay. Well, good.
That's why you got The Boys. That's great.
Hope then. That's true. Yeah.
It was just so full of SJW crap in the first episode. Like,
they were laying it on pretty thick with the like immigration and
get these dirty Mexicans out of here.
Racism.
These dirty winged Mexicans.
The patriarchy and
this terrible man who just up and left me.
Yeah, there are a lot of layers of that.
And how was the characterization of it? Fucking terrible. Oh,
well, I couldn't find a way to like.
Wait, Liz, they literally had the black guy moves in the neighborhood moment.
They did. They totally did do that. Like legit. Like, oh my gosh, he's gonna be so rich, and it's gonna be so awesome. And then they're like, oh wow, this guy's like a race that I'm not comfortable with. And yeah, it was
pretty ludicrous. That's where TV said it, folks.
It's pretty blatant.
Even Amazon's not free of it.
And I couldn't really get on board with the characters. Like, they made Orlando Bloom a completely not likable guy, which is pretty impressive.
I don't think that's difficult at all.
No?
I've never liked Orlando Bloom in a single thing.
Oh.
He's a prick.
Okay, well, he doesn't generally come across to me as douchey.
He was a prick as Legolas. Like, he's never been a nice guy. He's a shitty guy. He's an asshole elf in all of the movies he was in.
Okay,
I don't understand why, like...
Maybe
he's
because
pretty, maybe?
I saw Elizabethtown like a bajillion times. I think of him as that character.
Oh, you mean the Orlando
Baylor?
The Orlando Bloom movie nobody's ever seen.
Yeah, like... And so yeah,
isn't that like Kirsten Dunst?
Not that he's kind of not a prick in that. Actually, he has some douchey moments in that one also.
Just a douche. Do you like douches? Is that what this is?
I mean,
not feeling so fresh, getting Orlando Bloom.
Really?
It seemed like the easy joke.
You're
to
going
make.
For the dictionary definition there.
It was a much funnier joke than the other one.
Oh, good God.
So, anyways, folks, it's been a wild ride here. And it's about to get wilder. 2 minutes and I'm already making douche jokes. So, we got ourselves Mr. Matthew Erickson, the sidekick extraordinaire to the Jason Stapleton program. And things get a little philosophical.
You guys get a lot philosophical, actually.
Liz just sits here like...
I was literally just like treading water just mentally because I'm like, eventually they're going to like get to an island where I can find myself a landmark. But until then, I'm just going to try and keep up with them. Yeah, you guys got really philosophical. It's delightful if you are into that though, and it was really interesting to listen to. I didn't have anything to contribute to that part of the conversation so much
because apparently she's not a living human being. And she doesn't care about you folks, apparently, because I told her, hey, you should have stopped us and said, would you explain this because you're talking nonsense?
Well, I mean, and if I had thought of that at the time, I totally would have.
Well,
but,
it is odd because most people think if I don't understand something, let's ask for clarification. Your instinct is apparently just ignore it, like it isn't there.
No, not that exactly. It was more along the lines of I'm just going to try and absorb like a sponge, and then I will parse through later on with some books and some.
We'll see how much of it I even keep in the episode.
Well, there's that. And then that kind of led us down a really fun road, actually, because you started looking for those old papers you wrote, apparently. And there were a few more than we thought of. There was even a podcasting one, apparently.
Yeah, apparently I was writing papers on podcasting.
In 2006.
Yeah. It's actually 2005.
Yeah, so there you go.
And apparently I thought it was going to be the next big thing.
Yeah.
And then I ignored it for the next 15 years, whatever it was.
Because you got the grade and the class was over, so.
Yeah, that's what you do. I needed to go and get a respectable job or something.
That's the university system for you?
Yep.
Is that the deal?
Pretty much. Anyways, I don't want to have to cut too much of this episode out, and I'm going to have to cut a lot already. So let's jump on in here and find ourselves a little interview. This is where you should say, let's do that.
Let's do.
Stop making things awkward.
I thought you liked awkward.
What?
I thought you liked awkward.
No, I like awkward. I like making it awkward.
Mm-hmm.
That's my gig. You're supposed to be lovable.
Let's do.
All right, let's get into this.
All right. Enjoy.
Why does the void always exist within the form? Is it the eye of the storm? Or is it because we all must speak with what we breathe? Reality is riddles nobody can comprehend.
Welcome to the Sounds Like a Lady podcast. We are here with Matt Erickson, who some of our listeners may know from the Jason Stapleton program, but I'm sure you have other things that people might know you from. Is that the case, or are you a one-trick pony there, Matt?
Most people will probably know me from that. They may have seen me commenting in different Facebook groups and stuff in the past, but it's been probably a year or so since I've been real active in the Liberty Facebook and Twitter circles. So they probably would just know me from the podcast.
I have undoubtedly spent more time talking to your wife than I have you throughout history.
Yeah.
Because at least
she undoubtedly spends way more time on Facebook than I do.
I feel like that's been her entire life as long as I've known her.
There you go.
Talking to people for Jason. So,
yep.
How did you get mixed up in the whole Jason Stapleton world? I'll get this stuff out of the way for you.
So I was raised pretty conservative Christian, conservative morally and conservative politically. And then when I was in college, I don't remember exactly how it started, but I ended up being interested in the gold standard and started studying the gold standard. And so I wrote a research paper in one of my writing classes on the correlation between governments that inflate currencies and totalitarianism. And so as part of researching that, I came across the Tom Woods show and started listening to Tom Woods. And I got pretty well caught up on a lot of his episodes and wanted more. So I just searched libertarian podcast and found Jason's show. So I started listening to Jason's show, and I was like, oh, this guy's really interesting. And he talked about his private Facebook group, so I went and joined that. And then I saw this hot chick who was posting in there all the time. that group was something else. But it brought one good thing out of it. I met my wife.
Yeah.
And so she had started just volunteering for Jason because she was so active in the group. He asked her to help moderate it. And one thing led to another. We met each other there, added each other as friends, started talking offline, and she ended up moving from LA up to Seattle. We got married, and then she continued working for Jason. And as he was trusting her more and more, he started expanding her role into other things until pretty soon he was ready to hire her on full time. Mm-hmm. And we were exhausted of Seattle, so we moved down here to LA, and she was coming to work for him full time. And then he had a bunch of other stuff that he needed done too. So he offered to bring me on part time, and he was ready to change the direction of the show to reflect his interests and his passions more. Yeah. And the direction he wanted to go with it was actually very in line with what I was passionate about. And I've always enjoyed talking and discussing these kinds of things. I've always enjoyed the idea of being like a professional talker. And he needed a co-host. He wanted a co-host. So
wants to talk.
Yeah, right. It's such a strange and rare animal. But yeah, so I ended up testing out as the co-host, and we got good reviews. People liked the way that we interacted, and so I've continued on there. I've been there as the co-host for almost a year now.
That sounds about right.
Nice.
I feel like I've been re-listening for about a year now.
Like getting back into the flow.
Yeah, there was kind of a rough stretch there where it was very obvious that his heart wasn't in it. And it was because it's when you're doing a daily show where you're having to talk about the news all the time, and especially since the election of Trump, it's a real grind to have to go slog through all of this news every day. It really drags you down, and it can take a few hours after the show to recover from just all the negativity.
The one thing I will say that I did really miss when he stopped doing the news, in the sense that I don't watch TV, so I wasn't going to get news if Jason wasn't talking about it.
Yeah.
So it really cut me off from the news a lot. The only news I get now is what I get from Foreign Policy Focus with Kyle Anzalone. So I'm probably missing a bunch of shit happening in the world. Don't care.
But really, are you missing it?
No, not at all. Wouldn't exactly say I'm missing it, Bob.
Yep. Like once you get away from it for a couple of weeks, and then you realize all of that extra like bandwidth in your brain has been freed up, and you're not having to focus on, like, you realize how little all of this stuff actually affects you. It's so far removed, so distant from you, and the things that are immediately around you that you can tangibly do to improve your own lives just have so much more weight.
Well, you say that, but then I'd say go and marry a black woman and tell me how much it affects your life. And the shit that you have to hear from stupid fucking people out there.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, it's fun. I'll say that. Yeah, apparently I'm a colonist, being married is, colonialization. And I married a black woman not because I love her, but because, I have my white impulse to subjugate the blacks.
Isn't that's oh man, that's just the most patronizing thing ever. That's that white knighting impulse from people who think that they're doing it out of some sense of compassion or something, but it's really just their own perception of themselves as being some sort of moral messiah. It drives me insane.
Yeah.
I don't like people enough to think I'm a moral messiah, I'll tell you that much. I'm just a piece of shit like everybody else. So So you started reading books. You got interested in the gold standard in college, and you find your way into the Jason Stapleton world. How have you found the libertarian community to be since you've been a part of it? Enough that you wanted to leave, right?
Yeah,
I like the
I was kind of grimacing. I was trying to think of whether I should be really blunt about this or what. The thing about libertarians
more than other libertarians, so you're
exactly. Yeah, I went from, oh yeah, I'm a libertarian to please don't associate that word with me. And it's like, yeah, the worst thing about libertarianism is libertarians. And that's not, I mean, we joke about it, and it's not entirely true, because I don't want to be too hard on people because they mean well. And there's a continuum, and everyone kind of goes through this continuum where they enter into the community and they're all super passionate about it and very quickly get jaded, and then they burn out, and then they move on. And so I don't want to.
Which let me tell you, it's a fun trajectory as a podcast host, because you're like, well, do I keep doing this shit? Be like, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm sick and tired of politics.
Yeah.
Yeah, is my audience going to be like the libertarian podcast audience has the turnover of like a McDonald's?
I'm not even going to argue that. It's very true.
My biggest issue with libertarians, I think that they recognize, they're kind of like Bernie Sanders, where they recognize the problem, but then their solution is that they become politics enthusiasts. And the entire idea of libertarianism is that you're moving beyond or away from politics. But then people get so obsessed and so down deep into it. And I'm speaking about myself here. This is where I found myself, is that my mind was just revolving around politics all the time. And I was like, well, wait a second. The whole idea here is that we don't want to be involved in politics. And like, people were starting to pull me into Libertarian Party activism. And I was like, wait, why are we trying to get people more involved in politics? Don't we want to get people out of politics? Like, I'm interested in technology and business opportunities that can replace these political programs. I want to focus on the free market side of things. I don't want to focus on the politics side. And so there's kind of this, it's like a tightrope you have to walk between recognizing and being aware of and understanding the political problems, but then focusing your efforts and your energy on, and by energy, I don't just mean your activity, but I mean your emotional energy, your passions, your focus, and putting it into the things that are actually going to move the needle. Because I if you want to talk about like the deep state or whatever, the ruling elite, I think that they want nothing more than to have their greatest potential opponents be completely obsessed with niche politics. Because as long as they're completely obsessed with niche politics, they're ensuring that they'll be perpetually irrelevant and that they'll never accomplish anything. So I think that if you're going to get into libertarianism, it's fine to be aware of all of it, but don't make your hobby be bitching about politics on the internet.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
No, I could definitely agree with that.
As someone who is a member of the Libertarian Party Mises Caucus, I wholly endorse your statement. The only reason I'm involved with it, which is a tenuous relationship at best, is because I dislike the loudest thing out there saying libertarian, not at least putting out a solid message. So I will put in minimal effort to make sure that we can do the best to perhaps change that part of things, especially when here's my coming.
Yes, yeah. Here's my philosophy on the Libertarian Party, and it's that because I was sort of a little bit involved at the beginning of the creation of the Mises Caucus, mm-hmm. and then I just had to distance myself from it because I was getting so jaded. You
could just be jaded and involved like I am. I think about texting Mikey once a day. I'm like, I don't want to do this anymore, I don't think. But like, I feel it's important work. I just don't want to do it.
Yeah, you have more emotional wherewithal than I do.
Or maybe I'm just too lazy to text Mike.
My thing with libertarianism is that, just like I'm too lazy to change my Facebook name.
It's too much effort. I'll just keep saying I'm the Ohio rep and whatever.
Yeah. For libertarians to ever be a viable political party, the nation will already need to be open to the libertarian message. And for the nation to be open to the libertarian message, you wouldn't need a libertarian political party.
Well,
because if the nation was open to the libertarian political message, then they're not going to be looking to politics to solve the problems.
I've kind of I go almost the opposite direction with that, where I'll say that the minute the Libertarian Party is a viable political party, it will no longer be a Libertarian Party because too much money will be rushing in. And then it's going to be susceptible to all the same shit that the Republicans and Democrats are because people are it becomes a business at that point and not a political entity. So
absolutely, that's the nature of the beast.
Yeah, and so it's like I'm on board as long as it's inconsequential and is a possible way to draw people to the philosophy that I have. I'm okay with being involved with it.
So it's like you want to draw people into the philosophy and then spin them off and push them away from it. Like pull them into libertarianism and then be like, all right, now you see, all right, now go away. Now move away from politics, get out of it.
and the thing is, but one of the reasons I've loved it since I became involved is because for me, libertarianism has been such a good self-help, thing.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, the whole having to take responsibility for yourself, it's kind of an important thing. And, when you're trying to sit there and tell everyone else to take stock of their lives, you should probably do the same for yourself to get your shit in order.
Yes. I love that. That is because that is probably the single biggest driver of all the chaos and instability that we're seeing now is so many people, the vast majority of people are way more interested in telling other people how they need to run their lives than they are in getting their own lives in order.
You're one of those people that actually liked Peterson's book, aren't you?
I did, yeah.
I just found I found it very I know all this. This is basically just growing up Catholic is what that book said to me. It
was like packaging a bunch of truths that seem really plain and obvious, but I like his writing style, and then there was nuggets in there that I really appreciated, and then just in general, I guess to be really hippie about it, I really vibe with his vibe. I sense a very sincere, compassionate heart, and I like being exposed to that. I like having that energy in my life.
That's some pretty hippie shit. Did you ever read any Joseph Campbell at all?
Joseph Campbell? No. I'm reading Thomas Campbell right now. He's a physicist, but that's probably not the same person.
No, Joseph Campbell studied comparative religion.
Okay.
So essentially, he approached religion from an anthropological perspective. You watched it through history, how it developed and changed as different stories moved from place to place, etc. And a lot, it's one of the things when you listen to Peterson, the way in which he talks about Catholicism is very much in the Campbell vein, because he talks about a lot of the Christian mythology, but at no point have I ever gotten an impression that Jordan Peterson is a Christian.
No.
He uses the stories as, fixtures in our collective psyche, essentially. Campbell was also someone who was very, very inspired by Carl Jung?
I think so.
The dream guy who, said...
Yeah.
So there, which if I remember correctly, I think Peterson actually is too.
Mm-hmm.
But he
is.
The idea, it was the approach to religion. And for me, being able to, I grew up Catholic, so it was very important to me when I was no longer Catholic to not have to throw the baby out with the bathwater and all the positive things that religion can do, despite the fact that I am very, very not into religion these days. But the fact
I'm in the same boat. Yeah,
it has more to do with the fact that religion has a tendency to be more a political structure than it has to do with anything useful to people. I look from I understand why human beings needed it to thrive, but I really wish we'd just get past the monkey brain tendency that makes us still want to have that, and we can't move on to the next world.
Yeah, I think that the parts of religion that are most valuable are, number one, the awareness of and investment in the idea that there is more to reality than just this physical material world. And then the community aspect of it, that to have a community of like-minded people who all are invested in the well-being of each other. I think that those.
You don't have any opinions on that, do you, Liz? The religious community.
I mean, I'm kind of in that process too. So yeah, I totally get where you're coming from, and we're in raising our kid, trying to figure out like how do you do this? Do you you just plug them in so that they can get that experience and then like help them grow out of it, or do you just try and give them the cliff notes? Or
she's always had I always have like a built-in community because of my religion, and so when she kind of fell out of her normal church-going ways, she had difficulty finding community, because I think everything she's just looking for is like, I think I'm looking for this, but I don't want that either. So I don't know what to do.
Yeah, it's like you want the community without all the ideological baggage.
Yes, and it doesn't exist in the same way in other
well, it's
capacities.
You've gone to a couple different churches, and you'll go to the one where the church itself is too preachy and super stuffy in their beliefs, but then you go to the churches that aren't that, and then they're all a bunch of SJW trash forcing you. You want to talk about the
what was it, Unitarian or something?
She came back and they're all like, "You voted for Hillary, right?" And you're like, "Ooh, no, we're not going there."
Yeah, it's rough.
It's like I can't get anything I want out of this. Everybody sucks.
The current society is really suffering from a lack of community, and because a lot of these problems that we talk about could be very easily resolved if we had communities that were invested in each other. And I think you have I mentioned this on the show the other day, but the number that people say, I can't remember the name of it, but it's the number of faces that the human mind is capable of tracking, the number of individual faces. And it's something like 150.
Yeah.
And beyond 150 individual human faces, human mind just starts aggregating people into stereotypes because they can't track many more than that. And so one of the theories is that means that 150 is about the largest ideal size for a human community. And we've become, through the industrial age, society started getting so centralized to the point where now we basically have a nation of 350 million people. They're all trying to be centralized under a single king in one narrow part of the country. There's so many different cultures and subcultures with different values. And I think that one of the valuable things about increasing types of technology is that it's starting to decentralize us, and it's returning us back to a more pre-industrial age idea of community, where we have, it's not that I want to have a religion necessarily, but I think it's valuable for people who do believe that way to have people who also believe that way that they can commune together with. Yeah. And partly because then that means that they're not going to be coming after me.
Being able to...
You guys go gather over here and leave me alone.
Yeah. Being able to agree on how the world is and ought to work is a pretty powerful and important thing. If you can't agree on even the basis of that, then everyone's your enemy.
Been 7 years or more since I've been home. Worked every ranch from here to San Antone. Broke every horse they said could not be rode. My dreams are haunted by the strawberry roam. Where have all the cowboys gone? Got my guitar, but I'm all alone. Now nobody will hear my song about a man who makes his life on the road. Ropes and saddles and a can of Coke.
So, anyways, moving on a little bit from like the politics and this is your life kind of stuff. Where do you come at from a musical perspective? What's your vibe at there?
I love music. People say that they'll listen to anything, and they don't mean it. They're like, there's things that they won't listen to.
I
will listen to anything.
We just had this this discussion yesterday, or we were talking to our guests. I'm like, look, anyone who says I listen to everything, it means they listen to nothing. Like anyone that answers, I listen to everything, that just means they don't want to answer or think about the question. So fuck them. They're terrible people, garbage people.
Yeah.
I'm saying
genuinely, I
Yeah. Harsh much.
I will listen to classical. I will listen to opera. I will listen to rock. I will listen to punk. I'll listen to hip hop. I'll listen to country. I'll listen to throat sing. I'll listen to I have never found a genre of music that I don't enjoy and won't listen to. But I most commonly listen to probably hip hop. Okay. And like singer-songwriter. I like instrumental piano music. And lately this isn't really I don't know if this would qualify as music, but lately I've been listening to a lot of like atmospheric binaural beat mixes.
Nice. I used to be way into those probably about 5 years ago. They're interesting. I had a buddy who used to go on do the actual trip ones that are supposed to do psychedelic shit to your brain. I could never get that to work, but I also don't think I have a strong enough grip on reality to judge if I was tripping or not. I was probably tripping.
Yeah.
As I'm trying to explain,
they definitely are. One thing that I go ahead.
No, as I'm trying to explain to my daughter, and she's like, "Daddy, I'm scared of this thing." And your monster, this monster shit. And I'm like, well, honey, what I can tell you is Daddy sees monsters all the time. They don't hurt anything. Take that information and do with them what you will.
Yeah, you just got to get used to them.
Yeah, they're there. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. You'll get used to them. You'll start giving them names.
Well, and she did. She came at us with her first imaginary friend this week, which has been fun.
So I don't know how far out you want to get, but the one thing that I've been considering lately, after a few things I've heard from a few different people and stuff, I've been studying like quantum mechanics and the nature of reality and all that kind of stuff. And one thing that I've been considering is the possibility that when kids see monsters or have like imaginary friends or that type of thing, that actually isn't imaginary, that they're actually encountering personalities or something that are actually present, but that
exist.
We tell them, no, they're just imaginary. Yeah, in some sense like that. And we just tell them, oh, they're just imaginary. And because we increasingly are learning just how much our brains don't that our subconscious brain processes, but our conscious brain doesn't. There's so much input that we take in that our subconscious brain absorbs that our conscious brain just tells us to filter out, because our subconscious brain is beholden to our ego. So if everybody is telling you that's just an imaginary thing, you don't need to focus on that, pretty soon you'll just stop seeing it.
So you listen to a lot of stuff. You're doing a lot of hip hop, a lot of binaural beats now. What kind of names or should I be listening to in hip hop, do you think? What's the good stuff for you? Classics, man.
Oh man. So there's the easy stuff. There's Kendrick Lamar. I really enjoy Kendrick Lamar. There's a guy, his name is, he's technically a Christian rapper, but I just really like his flow and his sound. His name is NF.
Not MF Doom?
No. NF as in
okay.
N as in night.
Gotcha.
That's not a good word for that. Yeah, NF. And then let me think, who else? Let me look at my playlists here. I've generally been, I got to stay true to the hipster thing. So I generally have a lot of stuff that's less mainstream. Although, so do you know who Lil Dicky is?
Yeah, I love Lil Dicky.
Hold on. Hey, I'll be right back.
Okay. Aw.
Just their kid being terrifying.
Aw. What's she scared of?
She said there was a man upstairs in her house.
What?
We were recording in our basement. She's like, there's a man upstairs. And Nick's like, I should probably see about that.
To which she meant, apparently,
no
there's
kidding.
a spider upstairs.
Oh, so a man and a spider.
Yeah, not quite the same thing.
Maybe a Spider-Man.
So I wonder if the spider... Yeah, Spider-Man. Yeah, I wonder if the spider was like temporarily manifesting as a man.
I mean, that sounds like the kind of shit that I see in my head. Whatever.
Yeah. That's
Well, no, the problem is that our one roommate, or the gentleman that we rent a room to, has passed out in the tree lawn across the street a few times, and so we've woken up with the police in our house, and
that's not a lot of fun.
well, obviously from where I fall on the political spectrum, I had to have a discussion to say, look, dude, kind of a political dissident. I really don't want police having my address anywhere near anything. So
No kidding.
this is you got to figure this shit out.
We were on Lil Dicky.
Lil Dicky?
Yeah,
Lil Dicky.
So Lil Dicky, I first heard about him. I can't remember who told me about him, but I first heard about him. And someone's like, there's this really funny video that you've got to see. And it was his ex-girlfriend song.
Oh, God.
And it was, when I went and saw it on YouTube, it had fewer than 1,000 views.
That's
Wow.
crazy.
And I was like, wow, this guy's really good. This guy's going to be a big deal. So I followed him really closely until he finally hit his big record deal and went big time. But that was one of my like hipster moments where like I was a fan of Lil Dicky before anybody knew who he was.
It's a fan of OK Go before anybody listened to him, and I'll own it.
Yeah.
Yeah, dang hipsters.
I totally did. I totally 15-year-old girl out next to their bass player at a urinal.
That's great.
I was really drunk from a night of pre-gaming and went to see him, and happened to get there like right at peak drunkenness, and I'm standing at a urinal like just bleary-eyed and like barely there. And next thing I look over and I see their bass player, and he was very polite, as polite as you can be for a dude in his mid-20s, gushing about how much they love you with their dick in their hand. But
that's quite an image.
Eventually it occurred to me way later, and then I'm like, oh, that was really inappropriate of me. But like in the moment, I was just like, oh my God, dude, I love your fucking band. You're just so amazing. I love you. And
I'm sure by now that's happened to him many times.
Oh, I'm sure. But yeah, they were fun. I'm the type of guy that really like I take being a fanboy very, very seriously, even for like local bands. Like if I like a band, I will gush and I'll tell them they're awesome, because I think that that's important to tell and let musicians know that you think they're fucking good. It's a hard world out there,
Yes. So it's good getting that feedback.
Do you are you a big fan of Juicy or whatever it is by Lil Dicky with Mystical and Trinidad James? I can't remember if it's Jones or James. That song's all I know is it's like, bitch, you can make him turn into a werewolf.
Yeah, that's that. Yeah, I love that song. Amy really likes it too.
I think Mystical is perhaps the most criminally underrated fucking rapper out there, and I think only reason that is because he has spent too much time in prison.
That's the only song of his that I've ever listened to.
Are you kidding me? Oh my God, dude, I've got some shit to turn you on to, because Mystical's the shit. No one
do it.
Like nobody flows quite the same way Mystical does, because he's so erratic. Like he will drop a dime and just fucking change the flow up in ways that are mind-boggling to me. Because he'll go from like,
all right, I'm writing him down.
I'm getting a little emotional over here
verklempt.
thinking about how awesome Mystical is.
So here's another guy along the same lines that you would probably like. Then, are you familiar with King Los?
I think I have listened to King Los.
He did a freestyle on Shade 4-5 that was absolutely, completely blew my mind. The most amazing freestyle I've ever seen.
Interesting.
At one point, he had him he was like, give me a word, and he would give him a word or a concept, and he would just off the dome just freestyle off of that word.
Yeah.
He's another really good one. Brother Ali, I like a lot.
Brother Ali is good.
And then Hobson, I really, really enjoy Hobson.
You get into Tom McDonald at all? I know he's kind of a trending thing right now.
No, I haven't listened to anything that's been popular right now. I haven't been listening to.
I wouldn't say Tom McDonald is popular. I'd say he's trending.
Okay. What's the difference?
He's kind of like a white Canadian Hobson.
Ooh.
He
That's intriguing.
If I were to recommend a song, like the one that I really, really vibe with is, what the hell's it called, Liz?
Is it the Haters one, the first one?
Yeah, something like that.
There's politically incorrect. Everybody hates me.
Literally called
Everybody Hates Me. That song right there is one of my favorite fucking songs in the world right now. And if for no other
I'm writing
reason,
it down to listen
he's
to.
wearing a ski mask that says "Make America Hate Again."
And like
That's awesome.
It's ridiculous.
What I will say is that he goes out of his way to be offensive, and like his entire career is definitely just being a big fucking troll.
Okay.
You know,
I can vibe with that.
He has a song like called White Boy, you know, that's about like basically being a hip hop artist and being white, and you know, all the shit that you're not allowed to talk about kind of thing. You're not allowed to have opinions because you're white, that whole kind of vibe.
Okay.
So
I see that he did a Mac Lethal diss.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, that's how you get famous in rap, isn't it? You talk shit on somebody else.
Yep, punching up.
But
I like Logic too. He's
I think the only
he's another one that's kind of gone more mainstream, and I don't like him as much since he's been mainstream. I guess I'm finding that I really need to lean into this hipster thing because it just keeps being true.
Hey, how's it going? Nikki P here. Want to support the show or just give a big middle finger to Patreon? Consider stopping over to supportSLL.com. Members of the Freedom Choir get access to the private Facebook group and actual physical merch. Want access to the unedited raw interviews as they're recorded way before they're released? It's in there. Is that not enough? And you want membership to Freedom Song 365? It's in there. There's even monthly bonus swag for top tier supporters. So head on over to supportsll.com. Help Liz and I get to libertarian functions and even just cover the costs of making the show. If I'm not a good enough salesman, how about this?
Support my mom and dad and Sounds Like Liberty. Go to supportsll.com.
You heard her, folks. Join the Freedom Choir at supportsll.com.
I've got a couple more rappers for if you want.
Sure, go for it.
Nice.
Sorry, I get sidetracked easily.
No worries. I was just running through my playlist and finding a few others that I've listened to recently. So three of the guys that I've listened to more recently have been, just because I want stuff that's more thought provoking, that's a little deeper. And so I've gone back to some of the Christian rappers, not necessarily because I agree with all of their content or because I want to hear Christian stuff, but just because their stuff tends to be more thoughtful. And I appreciate people who are putting thought into their art. So the more mainstream guy would be Andy Mineo. But then the other two guys that I really like, well, one of them's a group. So one of them would be Derek Minor. He's a really good one. And one of his songs that I like is called Astronaut.
Why do I know that name?
And then he also has a song. What's that?
So why do I know that name?
I don't know.
He's not like mainstream Christian, but he's not a completely marginalized Christian rapper either.
Okay.
I'm trying to remember the one song that he has a song that's basically about it's about abortion, and it's about the negative impact that abortion has had on the Black community. And it's a pretty raw song.
I like raw.
And then the last one I would tell you about would be It's a group called Beautiful Eulogy, and that one is very like if you came from a Christian, like a theological background, you'll recognize a lot of the themes and stuff in it. It's very theological, but they have really good beats and they've got really good flow, and there's an edge to it that kind of it's weird because you've got this kind of hard edge while they're talking about deep theological stuff, and that contrast, regardless of what the content is, that contrast makes my brain I don't know, like fizzle kind of like it gets energy going in my brain when you get those contrasts in them. So those are Andy Mineo, Derek Minor, and Beautiful Eulogy.
Well, that's intriguing.
Yes, well, I'm listening. That was a guy I was thinking of. Graydon Square. Graydon Squared. You ever listen to him at all?
No, never heard of him. I'm looking him up now.
He's interesting. He raps about like I think like atheism and physics a lot. Like he gets
a rapper rapping about physics. That has got my attention.
Oh no, he this dude is all about like crazy, like the shit you talk about when you're crazy stoned. That's what this guy's into, and like
he has a song called Omniverse.
yeah, he will talk. He will sit there and talk string theory if you let him.
That's my people.
There you go.
Yeah, he seemed up your alley. He's a pretty legit rapper. The beats are pretty solid. I was into him for a little bit. Somebody was trying to tell me I need to get him on the or one of the people who listens to the show was trying to tell me I need to get him on here. It's always weird approaching bigger names because, you know, it's just weird approaching bigger names. And then you got to go through all these weird email hurdles like emailing people's girlfriends and wives.
The filtering process.
Yep.
Pretty much.
It's nice when you can get the bigger names that are directly accessible, because that's with Jason's show. That's what I'm always trying to email guests and stuff to get them on, and some of the people are just impossible to get a hold of. They don't have contact info. You try to get them through social media, and they'll read your message and never reply. So it's like this constant game you're playing where you're trying to figure out exactly what you have to say to pique someone's interest, get them to respond.
Yeah, with Jason's easy. You just got to convince Amy that it's okay to put something in front of Jason.
Yeah.
It's like,
yep.
Is this okay to send him? Ideally, I really wanted to have him. I really want to have him on to do a double show with me and my buddy Jay Catano. I was hoping that we'd have more time up at Porkfest to talk to him, but that didn't kind of pan out the way I would have liked it to. But my buddy Jay hosts Anarcho Inc., and it's specifically a business and entrepreneurship focused, tech focused podcast for obviously our kind of people.
Anarcho Inc. I'm looking it up now.
He's the Anarcho Coffee guy.
Put a bug in his ear. Oh, okay.
So,
see, that's what I really like to see. I really like seeing like anarchists, people who are, I guess, lack of a better term, they're politically woke or politically red-pilled, who are choosing to go the business route. I really enjoy that.
The more things have gone on, like it's the business, like the entrepreneurial side of things that has drawn me more. Because at the end of the day, like I do take, I believe Jason's right. It's like, you know, at the end of the day, there's only so much we can do about politics. It's way easier to fix the money issue. And
yes.
The more money you have, the less I give a fuck what anyone else wants or thinks. So
exactly, like people say that that politics is skewed toward helping rich people
to be rich.
Yeah, it is. Go be rich. Exactly.
Go out and find any way you can to do that. That's not actively hurting people.
Exactly, because as libertarians, we talk about how business is not a bad thing, how generating wealth for yourself is not a bad thing. So. And that this is the, instead of being focused on politics, this is where we need to be focused on. All right, so put your money where your mouth is. Go build yourself some wealth. Build yourself some wealth and make yourself immune to politics. If enough people have made themselves immune to politics, then politics becomes irrelevant. And I think that's where that's the future. is basically making politics obsolete. Make politics obsolete again.
You guys should really have Kevin Michael Geary on sometime. He's
what's his name? Kevin Michael Geary.
Yeah, he does. It's Digital Ambition is his company, and it's he does coaching and mentoring on helping people go out and make their business idea a reality and the steps that need to take. I was working with him for a while, and then it became clear that I just don't have a clear enough vision for what I want. That it was kind of useless for me to be involved in in his program, but I'm big enough to admit that my brain being a clusterfuck was the problem, not him.
I can relate.
Well,
okay, I'm looking him up. I've made a note.
He's done Tom Woods and stuff like that for sure. And he's a hell of a nice guy.
Okay.
Honestly, he may be a fan of the show. I have no idea. But yeah, he's very, very on board with a lot of the stuff you guys talk about on the show. And he's an action-oriented person. Like, stop talking about it. Go out and do it.
Is Rebooted Body, is that him?
That would also be him. Yeah, he's a serial entrepreneur.
Okay, awesome. That sounds like a plan. I'll reach out to him.
Nice.
Well, normally I'd say we have to dissect some lyrics, but I feel like we've kept you far too long already.
It has been an awesome conversation, though.
I did pull up a song that's libertarian oriented if you want it.
Sure.
Okay.
What is it? What do we got?
It's called Sons of Liberty by Frank Turner.
Ooh, I've talked about this one before on the Freedom Song 365 project.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it was as soon as you said that there's like a song that you said something about grading it on a scale from
normally
Bob Dylan to
I
Eric
do
July.
that. I forgot if I'd messaged that.
Yep.
I never remember.
Yeah, as soon as you said that, I was like, I have the perfect song.
Very cool.
I was hoping you hadn't heard it, but I'm still glad that you have.
Okay, well, no, but listen. So here's the thing, and I did not leave this. So me and my friend Sherry Voluntary and Luke Tatum have a project we've been doing since the first day of 2019 called the Freedom Song 365 project, where we literally send out an email every day with a song with some type of libertarian theme, and we discuss it. And at this
point, you've covered every libertarian song imaginable.
No, and because believe it or not, there's a lot of songs with good libertarian themes that are you would not think of necessarily as being that.
Interesting.
Regardless, we're 3/4 of the way through the year, so we've talked about a lot of fucking libertarian music. I believe.
Yeah, I imagine.
I believe when Luke was telling me he put the actual text of everything that we've written between the three of us into that one. What's that website that he uses, Liz? Hemingway.
Yeah.
And we've written more than A Tale of Two Cities so far between the three of us this year.
That's some content production.
Well, and that's the thing. So I do. There is a link to where you can go and look at every song that we've talked about so far. There's a page on everything with links to the YouTube videos where you can buy them if applicable.
What's the page? What's the site?
nickbacone.com/fs365.
.com.
I'll send you that.
I'm going to go check it out.
The first one on the list is actually one of my favorites that I had never thought about, which is Silent Running by Mike and the Mechanics, believe it or not.
I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, I guarantee you know it if you heard it, but...
Okay.
At any rate, yeah, let's talk Sons of Liberty.
Yeah.
We got some lyrics here, right, Liz?
Oh, yeah.
I've already talked about this song, so why don't you talk about it a little bit?
All right. Verse 1. We have, once an honest man could go from sunrise to its set without encountering agents of his state or government. But a sorry cloud of tyranny has fallen across the land, brought on by the hollow man who do not understand. That for centuries our forefathers have fought and often died to keep themselves unto themselves, to fight the rising tide. That if in the smallest battles we surrender to the state, we enter a darkness whence we never shall escape.
Go fucking figure, a libertarian being unnecessarily wordy.
That's a heck of a verse, though. He's just laying it all out
Sorry,
there.
couldn't that all have been summed up with "fuck the cops"?
He's painting a picture. He's
I mean, way to work in British history, I guess, but
he-
NWA said it better.
The next
Fuck
one
the
goes even
police.
deeper.
it's so funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I
Yeah, fuck the police would have covered all of that. But I really like that last phrase, that last one. If in the smallest battles we surrender to the state, we enter in a darkness whence we never shall
Frank Turner's a
escape.
confusing
That's the
thing
line
to
that
me.
stuck with me from that song.
Yeah.
'Cause
He is to me too, because he seems recently, I don't know if he's changing or if he's just been posturing this whole time, but some of his stuff recently has been very SJW.
Well, and that's the thing. There's a lot of people that were libertarians when it was in vogue prior to Trump, and now you're not allowed to be politically. I know that his parents are like I think are investment bankers and shit like that. So he's kind of politically tied. But he also he has his old band. He has a band called Mongol Horde that has a song "How the Communists Ruined Christmas," which is a fun song. That's that's like a punk song. Like they're a hardcore band. But yeah, I've never quite been able to make heads nor tails of him because like he's so like lyrically he's so good, but like like you said, is it posturing? Did he just change? Like there's a video that we talked about in the Freedom Song Project called I'm in Love with Friedrich Hayek. And it was posted on, and it was posted on like the Reason website by Reason TV a number of years ago. But the person that wrote the song has completely turned their back on, libertarian theory at this point, and is a total SJW. Like an intersectional feminist trans person. But at one point they wrote a song called I'm in Love with Friedrich Hayek, and it's hilarious. It's terrible, but it's hilarious.
I can't really imagine that it would take a hell of a musician to make I'm in Love with Friedrich Hayek into an actual good song like anybody would enjoy. Have you seen Frank Turner's Make America Great Again song?
Oh,
I don't know that I have.
He did there's a whole video with it about making America great again. And he did it right after Trump's election. And it's just so pandering. And that's when I really was kind of lost a bit of passion for him.
And see, that's the thing. Libertarianism is a different thing over in England. It's definitely more towards the lefty side naturally. Like technically, I think the dude from Muse is considered a libertarian, but I don't think he'd be a libertarian in like the Rothbardian sense, like we would be. He would be maybe more on the Nick Sarwark type of libertarian side, I believe.
That makes sense.
Which, by the way, I'm not wholly against. I was not raised in a conservative household. I am as culturally not conservative as they can possibly get. So, like, the whole left-right, like the left-right thing's just weird to me. It's like, okay, well, I'm a bisexual dude in an interracial marriage. So, and everyone I'm surrounded with are Catholic.
So you stick out a little bit.
Yeah.
I am just like a flame in the wind around all these people.
Well, the idea of you know where the left wing, right wing thing came from originally.
It's about the French Revolution, and these people were in Parliament on the right side of the king versus the left, and traditionalism.
So the right wing versus left wing is really just it's a breakdown of what you believe. It's like your beliefs about power and where you believe power should be consolidated. And the right wing perspective of power is that hierarchy is inevitable, but then even more that hierarchy is necessary, and that power needs to be consolidated in specific institutions that will use that power. And then the left wing impulse is that power needs to be distributed, and it needs to be spread out as atomized or as dispersed as much as possible.
Sounds like you've been listening to Michael Malice talk about it, not the other people.
I have been. Yeah. His I was just starting today to listen to his talk about Emma Goldman, and I really want to finish that. But I mean, obviously, I come from a very right wing background.
Yeah.
But I've been realizing over the last couple of years that, like, psychologically, I'm very left wing. And my biggest issue with the modern left wing is how right wing it is.
Yeah.
That they don't truly actually
Absolutely.
believe in power to the individual.
Right. Power to the people by
Well,
giving it to the
But
government.
once again, it gets me to so how
Exactly.
fucking useless are those terms?
Yeah. Well, it's that, I mean, like, they don't believe, like, they don't want people to be armed because they don't actually trust individuals. They don't
Right.
believe in individuals having power. They believe in institutions having power and then granting rights to individuals. And they just believe that those rights should be granted to all individuals equally or something like that. But it's like, people talk about America being very progressive or something like that, but America is becoming increasingly right wing. From what I can tell,
Yeah.
there isn't an actual true left wing in America that has any sort of influence. But technology is moving. Technology is moving left while culture is moving right. So culture is trying to consolidate power into institutions while technology is stripping power away from institutions. So I think that my perspective on government is that government is a technology that is obsolete, and that technology is going to increasingly reveal that. And if you look at history throughout all of human history, human beings will naturally, in a long enough time scale, they will naturally gravitate toward the technology that is the most efficient and the most beneficial. And so it's just inevitable that that's going to happen.
You know, they'll just punish the companies that they think work the best.
Yeah.
We love you, Uber. We just, don't want you to have any money and be successful. So
Yes.
we love you as a tool.
Oh,
but
so then-
we hate you people. How dare you give us this great utilitarian feature?
Yeah.
Oh, so
So the goal is to just make yourselves immune from that.
yeah, absolutely. So let's keep going here. When they raise their hands up, our lives to possess, to know our souls, to drag us down, we'll resist. Fuck the commies.
Yeah, that is the hope.
I'm gonna
Yep.
reduce this entire song down to fucking 4 sentences.
cops. Fuck the commies.
4 incredibly glib sentences.
That sounds like you.
Yeah. So the first verse is fuck the cops. The chorus is fuck the commies. Let's see what the second verse is.
Yeah, here we go. Wat Tyler. Do you know who Wat Tyler is?
Peasants' Revolt.
I don't.
I don't know what that is.
The Peasants' Revolt in England. He led a group of peasants to the parliament to talk to the king and say, we need these rights. We need to be able to make our own laws, basically.
Okay.
Oh, it was against a poll tax.
Yeah, poll tax. Yeah,
I think I did know that. Actually.
Interesting.
horrible histories, man.
I wrote about this, and it was just a long time ago.
Just watching history shit with the kid.
Hey, it works.
Huh. After having met the king and pledged allegiance to the king in English law against compensation, Wat Tyler was murdered during negotiations.
Go
Sounds
figure.
about right.
Sounds like what a king would do.
Fuck the cops.
So, to meet the king in Smithfield and issue his demands that Winchester should be the only law across the land, the law of old King Alfred's time of free and honest men, because the people then, they understood what we have since forgot, that a government will only work for its own benefit, and I'd rather stand up naked against the elements alone than give the hollow men the right to enter into my home.
Isn't that like what is that word? Anatomy of the state, right there. The government will only work for its own benefit.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yep.
Hmm?
Just one big...
Oh, apparently I'm on genius.com, and for that line that the government will only work for its own benefit, the annotation that's here, it says a position that many economists and philosophers hold, including Nobel laureate Milton Friedman.
Oh,
And
there
it
you go.
says about Turner, it says as a self-proclaimed minarchist. So apparently Turner considers himself a minarchist.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I really like this last verse.
Mhm.
So if ever a man should ask for your business or your name, tell him to go and fuck himself. Tell his friends to do the same. Because
Yes.
a man who'd trade his liberty for a safe and dreamless sleep doesn't deserve the both of them, and neither shall he keep. Couldn't that have been the whole song? Did it need to be a history
Yeah.
lesson?
And that's
It just needs to be that last verse.
Ben Franklin, ain't it?
Yep.
Who the hell would know? There's so much shit gets attributed to people in the age of the internet. I have no idea who the fuck said anything.
Well, that's true.
I now no longer care who said anything. Which gets into what I mentioned to Matt, like why I think that deepfakes is going to be so liberating in the world, because when celebrity is useless and it's oversaturated in the market, it's going to devalue it and it's going to be great. I now no longer care who said anything because I doubt it was real anyways.
Well, that's going to take the punch out of cancel culture too, because, you know, why are you going to cancel somebody when nobody really cares if they said it or not?
Absolutely.
I think it could absolutely be Hollywood's undoing. Like, you're not going to have megastars anymore because who fucking cares? I can have anyone act the movie and then just put so-and-so's face on it. We're going to move into a world where we just have, you know, in fact, we probably won't even have a real person anymore. We'll probably find out who is the most perfectly attractive person.
Just make everything look like their
Yes,
face.
and then just superpose the most attractive people into the movie. And that's
So
just, we
creepy.
put them up there acting for us. And, you know, we use Joe Schmo and Jane Doe, you know, to go out and actually do the acting that we superimpose on.
Or it'll all become decentralized and it'll be focused
Literally
on...
everything becomes green screen and, what do you call it, rotoscoped. I'm all about this.
And the only thing that people are going to be able to truly trust is the stuff that is in their immediate vicinity that they can put actually put their eyes and their hands on.
Which means...
Again, this is the decentralization effect of technology.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
That's why I wanted to have Matt on. I knew it was going to be an interesting conversation, if nothing else.
All right, so where should we put this here Frank Turner song?
All
on
right,
our
so
scale?
is this... we rate on a scale from Bob Dylan to Eric July with Lou Bega in the middle. I think that based on nothing more, we can trim the fat and just say that we can just rate it on that last verse.
Okay.
I'm going to go Eric July.
I like that.
I can support that.
If ever a man should ask you for your business or your name, tell him to go and fuck himself and tell his friends to do the same.
There you go.
And
God, I wish more Americans could think like that.
I tried to kill him dead. The voices in my head, but they just keep crawling back. My thoughts are a flood, full of flags soaked in blood. A coward senseless attack. But inside has broken me. Those promises help abandon me. For life took their toll. But the war at home claimed my soul. In the silent dark of night, violent fates come back to haunt. And for persistent in their cause. Try as I might, I just can't seem to keep them in the ground. I just can't escape their claws. The fight inside has broken me.
you saying that that's racist and homophobic is racist and homophobic.
Which once again is my favorite line in that Chappelle show is literally the what was it? He goes, well, you're not gay, not a nigger either.
Yes, that was amazing.
It says everything that needed to be said about. Oh well, we see what you think about him now, based on his
Exactly.
reaction. You that's your tell. And oh my god, I was dying, just dying.
That was the most powerful part of the entire thing because he's revealing the psychology of the people who consider themselves so morally virtuous.
God, I love that moment.
To me, I go out of my way to use, within reason, but I go out of my way to use quote unquote slurs. Like, for example, retard. Like, I like calling people retards specifically because I'm trying to take the power out of the word. If you say that I can't use the word retard to refer to someone who's being a retard, then you're like I'll be like, oh, that's retarded. And you're like, oh, that's offensive to mentally disabled people. I didn't say anything about mentally disabled people. You're the one who introduced that into the conversation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about a guy who's a retard.
Amy,
like, he's acting like a retard, so I call him a retard.
Amy must have so much fun with you at the cocktail parties.
It drives her crazy. I want to take the power. I want to take the stigma away from the word. And you don't take the stigma away from the word by not using it. You take the stigma away from the word by using it.
Mm-hmm.
No, absolutely. And that's a frustrating thing for people to kind of to get, unfortunately.
Yep. Especially because we've been conditioned to be so because like a lot of those words that I even with the perspective that I have on it, I still like my subconscious still cringes when I hear those words just reflexively, because I've been conditioned into believing that just the use of the word itself is an offense.
Oh,
so it doesn't matter what my higher order brain believes. That's how effective this type of thought policing and conditioning is.
That's Catholicism for you. Doesn't matter how academically I don't believe there's a God. It's still beating in me to question that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that constant anxiety and terror that there is a God, and just the very fact that I'm questioning him means
existential dread's a motherfucker. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
There you go.
Yes, and that's but when you start recognizing that fact, you realize that the God well, for me, I'll speak for myself. The God that I was raised to believe would not put people in that position.
Right.
So then the ideology itself becomes self-defeating, because you can't have a loving, compassionate creator God who will damn you for eternity for questioning whether or not he exists.
What's my line of thinking? Look, if being a good person isn't enough, then I don't know what I'm trying to reach anyways. You know, Stephen Fry's big thing, why he believes there's no, it's like, look, anyone who can allow war and famine to exist, I mean, there's certainly no benevolent creator that deserves my affections. So,
with that, even like, so if you're working from the Bible with, what is the term, theodicy, if God is an omnipotent good being or whatever, then how does evil exist?
Mm-hmm.
And the Christian's response to that is that it's that those things, that you can't have good without the evil. Like the very concept of good is only understood in the presence of evil. Just like life is only understood in the presence of death, and light is only understood in the presence of dark. So it like you have to have that, and so the answer would be that those things exist because of people who have rejected God, that have divorced themselves from him, that have pulled themselves apart from him, because he's the source of goodness. So you have to be connected and plugged into him to have good things. But it's so that the existence of bad things, the things like famine and war and cancer and whatever else, that doesn't really bother me. That doesn't really make me question the existence of God or the nature of God. The biggest hang up for me, the biggest thing that pushed me to the point where I am today is that fact that that these things like truth and goodness and all of the good stuff, it seems like there's a truth to that that's greater than just the truth that's contained within the ideology of Christianity. It's like, even if you don't have the structure of Christianity, you can still reason to the point where these things are reality, where goodness is good. And so that means that not only is that true, not only is Christianity true, but there's like a meta truth that it exists within. We're getting
dangerously close to where I have to jump in and do my whole Thaddeus Russell speech.
Oh God.
Do it.
No, I've given it way too many times on my show.
Oh.
He does specific things that I feel like are academically dishonest, so to speak.
Yeah, I get that vibe.
I'm also a huge School Sucks fan. And
yes,
there is some drama between. I have my feelings about the way I feel like he treated Brett. Like, anyone I've ever heard have a conversation with Thaddeus Russell, he talks down to. Like, he's king shit in the room, and I don't know that he really, I don't know that he really deserves that. So.
Yeah, and that's the interview with Malice was so fascinating because he very clearly knew that he gave off the impression. I recognize this because I've experienced this where you're used to feeling like you're smarter than most of the people around you.
Yeah,
and most people aren't getting deep enough into the issue. But then when you're around someone else that you are, there is no question whatsoever that person is leaps and bounds ahead of you.
Yes.
You could tell that that's how he felt about Malice. And Malice was just dissecting him. But Malice wasn't being controversial or anything. He wasn't being aggressive. He was just asking him questions.
He's being as polite as he could about what are very, very huge, glaring issues in this shit that he spent 2 years. Like, I will tell people, I think that postmodernism is incredibly important to libertarians because understanding that just because we believe something is the truth doesn't mean that other people are going to see it the same way we do. Now,
yeah,
I think that that's a pretty self-evident thing now, but I don't know that it always was. So it's an important philosophical discussion to have had in history. I don't know how important that is today, other than to say you can never meet somebody and get them to understand something if you can't help them see past their own bias, which is what that whole thing is about. Now, he takes it that extra step and says, well, truth doesn't exist because we can't see it.
And he didn't have breakfast, so.
Yeah, like, it's such a huge divergence from, like, the truth. Like, no. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. I don't see fucking air. I breathe it. I'm pretty positive it's there. Like,
yeah,
it's
correct me if I'm wrong, but where he's breaking down is he says because he's reasoning appropriately to the point where he says we can't know XYZ is true or XYZ exists. It's a fundamental impossibility for us to know that. We're
limited by the fact that we are context. And I get into this especially when it comes to like things like very complicated issues like abortion, which people refuse to see as cultural issues. And the fact of the matter is, it is. It
is.
Truth is truth to you as you see it. Now, I think there are certain things that are probably better for people because they're better for people. But if a culture doesn't morally give a shit about abortion, it's not really your position to tell them to give a shit about abortion. And I guess in the same way, I don't know that I necessarily care. I don't even know that I want to say this sentence.
Okay.
But I feel like if a culture accepts slavery, I think that's bullshit. But I also have to understand that that's culturally how I was taught. Like, that's my baggage that I'm bringing to the table. And that, is it really any different if we use horses to carry our cars around versus people? I don't know. Contextually, I would say I see people as thinking beings and have an ability to reason, which makes them fundamentally different. But it's possible that I'm not functioning in the same wavelength that horses are. And maybe they have a huge society and we've just enslaved them all, despite them being able to have conversations and reason the same as way we do, just different.
Yeah, there's this idea of one of the things I like to say is that the benefit that we have that people in the past didn't have is we have all of the past that they didn't have.
Yeah.
And so when we're trying to judge, for example, use the slavery example, when we're trying to judge the intentions or the motivations of someone in 1860, we have to realize that they don't have the 1860 to 2019 aggregation of ideas and thought and values. They're operating from all of human history up to the point of 1860. And I don't think that we really do that. I think that when we are trying to place ourselves back there and trying to determine how we would act or what we would value in that time, we actually are thinking of ourselves as being 2019 beings transported to 1860 to think about how to act in 1860 rather than being 1860 beings.
Mm-hmm.
And therein lies the main supposition of postmodernism is that to get to the truth, you have to do your best to take out that context. You can't look at it the way that a 2019 person does. You have to sit there and try and extricate away what makes you a 2019 person to get closer to seeing what the truth is. And understand that will never be perfect. You will never be able to extricate all of that. There's always going to be some of it there. And, that's worthwhile. That's some people are probably more capable of it than others. I think back to like my first year when I was taking it's an introduction to like intro to ethics or whatever in college, and we were talking about different ethical theories, and I had these Christian people in the classroom that just couldn't understand. They were completely incapable of understanding an ethical theory outside of their own. They understand ethics as what God says. Mm-hmm. That's it. That's all ethics.
Which is just epistemologically bankrupt.
Well, and now, granted, we're dealing with dumb, drunk 19-year-old kids, so
yeah,
they're not there to learn.
Got a grade on a curve.
Absolutely, but it was frustrating. Like it's like, how do you not understand like that? Essentially, the rules are the rules as defined due to a certain end. It's the end that decides it. Glorifying God is the end that you want, and so that's why those rules are to you. But if your end result is maximization, of good for all human beings, then you're gonna have a utilitarian perspective, and your good is based on this outcome. Like ethics is all outcomes based, and that's some ethics are. Some are dictate based. Sorry, I get going on the philosophy shit like that.
Well, yeah, this is the stuff that this is the cutting edge of culture. Like Maoist talks about in his book how culture is defined by what's happening at the fringes.
My favorite thing that Tom Woods ever did for me was introduce me to Michael Malice. Like,
yes,
that is the greatest because I love listening to him talk. I wish he'd have more heady guests on. It's funny because he's just such a troll that he'll fucking talk to the people he talks to, and you're like, I know you could be having such more intelligent conversations. Stop talking about fucking jeans.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, Liz over here loves fashion. She's like, I'm really interested in these
appreciate
jeans.
his fashion sense, actually.
So,
but yeah.
All right, boss. Well, I really appreciate coming on. We have kept you way too long, and I'm already way late for work. I don't give a shit, but I'm still way late. So, what are some plugs you'd like to get out there?
Yes, let's do that.
I would say, obviously, for anyone who doesn't, I would say listen to the show, Wealth, Power, and Influence with Jason Stapleton. And then my own Twitter account is where I'm probably the most active, and that would be I tweet stuff here. I tweet stuff here.
Nice.
And
I don't know.
And then I'm trying to be more active. What's that?
I said I don't know that I follow that actually.
Yeah, I've been trying to kind of overhaul it.
Twitter is my favorite cesspool to hang out in.
Yeah, same here. That's where I keep finding myself dragged back into.
People are terrible and hilarious, and I love it.
Yeah, and then I'm trying to be more active on Instagram, and my Instagram is at. So I've got to explain the background of the Instagram handle here. It's at Polymatthew, and when I created it, the thing I was going for was a polymath, because Matthew is a name that doesn't have a lot of clever puns associated with it.
Right.
So I was like, Polymatthew, because a polymath is someone who's like an expert in a wide range of subjects.
Come on, you telling me in this conversation you think I don't know what a polymath is?
Well, yes. So I'm saying it for the sake of your listeners.
Oh, you think
because
my
I realized
dumb, huh?
That now people are just thinking you're polyamorous.
Wow.
Exactly.
Is that really where people go with that? That's retarded.
Yeah, I think so.
Every single person that I've said my handle to, they're like, wait, are you
that says
poly?
So fucking much about our culture. Like,
yeah,
you don't immediately notice polymath in there. Like, that's.
Yeah, so I've learned that I have to. That I never know what someone's going to think, and that now I could change it, but I'm just like, whatever. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
I just live with it and move on.
Well, I am frustrated for you in that regard because that's fucking retarded.
Yes,
big R.
I appreciate that. I appreciate the frustration. Thanks, guys. I appreciated the opportunity. This is a really fun conversation.
I know. We said we were going to do it. We said we were going to get philosophical, and then we did it, Liz.
Yep. Promised and delivered.
How philosophical did you get? Do you remember being as philosophical as you got?
I mean, I enjoyed the conversation. I remember that.
You remember enjoying the conversation?
I did. And actually, I then, just getting to kind of see you guys talk about being the chaos agents on your respective shows was also kind of hilarious because the similarity there is pretty fun.
I do like to cause chaos. In real life, too.
Yeah.
It's not just limited to the podcasting world.
And, I have definitely been doing more listening to the Jason Stapleton program as of late, which is not called that anymore. It's called Wealth, Power, and Influence.
Yes.
Yes.
Because influence is my favorite word.
Well, influence is probably the new currency anyways. So, but yeah, so check out that, and you
could also go over to any number of the other podcasts that I work on, which would include Free Market's Green Earth, This Week in Liberpods, as well as The Introvert Musician.
Yes.
Things that I do. And if you just want to go to nickmccone.com, that's kind of where everything is.
Yeah, and you can also find Nick's music and musical collaborations, which can be quite enjoyable there.
Slowly just working on moving everything to nickmccone.com.
Mm-hmm. Simplify.
I don't want to pay for 20 web pages.
And then you guys can just go to one spot and find all the things.
Yeah. I mean, you'll always have the same, or like base URLs will get you places, but anyways, folks, thanks so much for hanging out with us yet again. I'll say, as always, go like, subscribe, share, get us around there, because I'm pretty positive the internet hates the word liberty, and I'm too lazy to change the name of the show right now. Go like, share, subscribe, and it'll help people find us. And I like people find us. I like hearing the conversations. I like having the conversations.
We like having the conversations. So thank you for listening and for joining us.
Take it easy.